Welcome to my channel, and today I wanted to share with you a few tips on how you can find a good therapist for yourself. I have been in therapy for more than a year and a half now, and I meet with my therapist every week. And to be completely honest, it's been such a game changer for me. I have transformed so much that I can scarcely recognize myself. And my life, both my outer reality and inner reality, have changed so much for the better that I truly wish that everyone is able to get into therapy and have a similar transformation. Uh, a large part of this transformation comes from having found a wonderful therapist, which was why I decided to create this video so that I could share a few tips on how I went about figuring out the right therapist for me, in case that's helpful to you. So here are the steps. The first step would be to get referrals. Get referrals of therapists from people who know you well, your friends, your family, your coworkers, basically people who know you well, because then they are able to sort of think about, oh, like this particular therapist might work well for this person. They'll be able to match personality. So it's like one level of filter right there. The other thing is that these people also would have a subjective understanding of the person they're referring. So that's another level of filter. So you get referrals of only those therapists uh, have a certain degree of credibility coming from the people you know. So that would be number one. Secondly, make sure that you get referrals of like a bunch of therapists. So never like speak to just one therapist and decide that this is the person, or like, okay, I've spoken to one therapist, so let me like dive in and continue with this person for a while. I genuinely think the better process would be to get the names of at least a few therapists and have an initial chat with them, just like a quick phone call or like a video chat, so that you can understand their background, you can understand their vibe, their process, and then make an informed decision. In fact, I spoke to, I think, 9 or 10 therapists before I decided on my therapist, and the process was pretty interesting. And I could see that just by talking to a bunch of them, I could pick up on a lot of cues, and I also had more data points to figure out what was it that mattered more to me and what was the sort of person I wanted to work with, right? So that would be tip number two. Tip number three would be speak to them. Uh, and as you speak to them, bear these things in mind, like gather this information. A, what's their qualification? What have they studied? What's their background like? How many years of experience do they have? What sort of therapy do they specialize in? It could be CBT, DBT, attachment theory based therapy, somatic therapy, and there are like so many types. And it's good for you to have this information, right? Also, try and figure out if they specialize in working with particular kinds of people. And one easy way to like ask this question is, let's say um, you've had some past experience, like some traumatic event. You could check with them if they work with people who have had a similar traumatic event. It could be, for example, sexual abuse or domestic abuse, or um, you know burnout, or like it could be any topic under the sun. But it's good to like ask them pointedly, because I personally think that it's better to work with somebody who has experience of working with other clients who have issues similar to yours. So that's another thing to ask, and also understand. Also ask them their fee, like their price range, so that you pick the person who is affordable to you. At no point should therapy feel like, oh my god, I'm paying through my nose. No, you want therapy to be easy on you, like your sanctuary, your safe space, which also means that it needs to not stress you out monetarily. Uh, Once you've gathered all this information, you want to just sit down with yourself and think about what are your needs. What is the sort of person you want to work with? For example, when I sat down and I thought, whom I wanted to work with, I realized that I actually was not that keen on working with a person who was much older than me or much younger than me. I wanted somebody who was plus or minus 3 years my age, because I felt that I would be able to relate to them much better, and vice versa. Also, I felt that at a subconscious level, um, you know, age would play a role, at least for me. And I did not want any sort of subconscious power dynamics to come into play, which it often does, especially in an Indian context, um, especially when it comes to age. But that's just me. I have a friend who specifically wanted somebody who was much older than her, because she felt that she wanted to talk to somebody with a lot of years of experience, as that created a sense of safety and comfort for her. Which is why I'm saying sit down with yourself and ask yourself what sort of um, you know characteristics or demographic you want your therapist to come from, that would make you feel the safest and most comfortable. That's number one. Number two, this is something I already covered, but I'm going to repeat anyway because it's so, so important. Think about your past. Think about what issues you're wanting to work through, uh, what sort of situations you've dealt with, what sort of trauma and circumstances you've dealt with. Finding somebody who also works with people with a similar background, similar issues, will be really comforting. And also, like, at a practical level, they'll just have more tools and they'll be able to help you through your journey better. At least that's what I think. um, Thirdly, this is subjective, but it's such an important point. Just ask yourself if you genuinely liked the person. Like, you want to work with as you're looking at the list of people you've spoken to and you're thinking through, who is it that you want to work with. You want to pick the person that you genuinely like, because at the end of the day, therapy is you opening up to another person and them holding that safe space for you. And you want to do that with somebody you genuinely like, you feel super comfortable with, who uh, will treat you well. Um, for example, when I was talking to all those therapists, I found that a few of them brought up the topic of their fee, uh, like way early in the conversation, even before they sort of asked me the sort of help that I wanted, and what was it, why was it that I was going to therapy. And that bothered me because, I mean, I obviously did not have any problem with paying, but just knowing that this person seemed overeager and brought up the topic of fee even before they gathered information about me was off-putting for me. But you might have other criteria, or that might not be off-putting for you, which is why you want to sort of just think whether what each person's vibe was, and at a subjective level, did you like them. This likability should feature at the very top of your list of criteria. So definitely pay attention to this. And I would say that uh, even after you decide on a person, remember that you are the one who's in charge. Like, if for whatever reason, after a session or two, or even after like 10 sessions, you feel that, oh, this person is not really working out for me, I'm not really enjoying this, more than enjoying, I'm not really feeling comfortable. I'm not feeling safe. I'm not feeling like I'm having the sort of transformation I want, or whatever it might be. If you feel that, do not hesitate to let them know and go find some other therapist. It's totally okay, right? Because at the end of the day, it's your life, and you want to pick the therapist. Ideally, you want to pick somebody you can work with long term. So bear that in mind when you're getting into therapy and you're deciding on somebody. Know that you're trying to pick somebody who you can potentially work with on a long term basis. And when you're doing that, you want to be super careful about who you're picking, right? So those were my tips. I hope they were useful to you. If you have any questions or any comments, please do feel free to leave them, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.